People who get modern art, what are the rest of us doing wrong? A lot of art is context. With a painting of flowers in a vase, the context is very clear because it's a straightforward representation of the subject. So it's easy for anyone to get just by looking at the painting. With some kinds of art, the artist might be trying to communicate a concept that's not as clear-cut as flowers in a vase, like anxiety, or how I felt when my sister died. They might also be trying to communicate a straightforward concept in a unique way. Both of these are often the case with abstract art, which is one kind of art people often think of when they talk about modern art. Draw a picture of your face. Look in a mirror, and then try to make it as true to what you see as possible. Now draw a picture of your face again, but do it only from memory. Now do it again, but draw it without lifting your pen or looking at the page. Those are all pictures of your face, but each one needs a little more context to understand what was going on in your head when you drew it. Some art is so far removed from the original subject, you might need to know what the artist was doing in order to understand what it's a picture of. Kind of like your third drawing, which could be totally unrecognizable. How many lines would it take to draw a recognizable picture of your face? What would the bare minimum look like? Could you make a recognizable picture of your face with only straight lines? Or with only macaroni noodles? What makes those pictures your face and not your friend's face? Exploring these techniques is fun for a lot of people because it becomes almost like a code. But it's frustrating for a lot of people who would rather see art where the artist is more straightforward about what they're communicating. If you see one painting that has a bunch of soft wavy blue lines running in one direction, and one that has a bunch of angular black lines crossing each other, you'll probably have a different response to either of those. You might feel like the blue lines picture is calm, peaceful, or sad. You might feel like the black lines picture is angry, stressful, or violent. How can you have a picture of sad or angry without drawing someone who is sad? Or something that makes you angry? That's art. To take it even further, how far can you go before some people say that what you've made isn't art? How far can you go before everyone agrees it isn't art? Where are those lines? If you're interested in those questions, you should look up Marcel Duchamp, an acclaimed artist who submitted a signed urinal to an art show under a fake name to challenge people's definitions of art. Is a urinal on a pedestal art? Is it art if you intend to spark a conversation? Is the entire act just performance art? Thank you for actually answering the question. This was very interesting to read. Best answer I've ever heard. But of course, in all art, or music or dance, works are often judged on the reputation of the artist, so total crap may be praised to the sky if made by a famous artist, while good works by an unknown will often be ignored, trying to make it look like something instead of feeling the reaction the art gives you. Do you get classical art? What does it mean to get art? I can look at the Mona Lisa and say, I get it. It's a painting of a woman, the same way I can look at a Rothko and say, I get it. It's yellow and blue squares. It's about enjoyment. Artists find enjoyment in making and sharing things. And a lot of modern art is made by artists, for artists. Sometimes there is nothing to get. Sometimes it's just about a visual reaction of some sort. Also, artists can get too far up their own asshole and the result is often unenjoyable, inscrutable garbage that academics gather around and beat each other off to. Doesn't mean there isn't good stuff out there. Greater than doesn't mean there isn't good stuff out there. Exactly this. I think many people have a negative reaction to modern art is because they consider art as a seal of quality, and if it doesn't do anything for them, they will be looked down upon by the snobbish arty types. But art is like any other cultural product, books, movies, music, in that about 90% or more is just not interesting to me. I'm here for the last few percent that deeply move me, so I have no problem dismissing most of the art on display, but would never dismiss art on the whole. I would rather look at a painting of a blue circle than a painting of a bowl of fruit or a jar full of flowers. It really depends what sort of art you're talking about. Modern art isn't really a unified thing. That being said, I do enjoy a lot of pieces that try something new, even if it's really strange. I was once at an art gallery where somebody had covered the floor with 2 feet of packing peanuts, and then let several Roombas loose underneath, causing little bumps in the sea of peanuts that moved around in weird and unpredictable ways. There was a strange appeal to it, if only because it was something I had legitimately never seen before. I also have penchant for any piece that involves movement or change, just as a personal preference. The first thing to get is that modern art is art roughly from the 1860s to the 1970s, so if you're talking to art nerds, anything from the last 50 years is postmodern or contemporary art. Some stuff that was groundbreaking at the start of the modern era, like photo collage, is now taught in kindergarten, so usually when people talk about not getting it, it's about postmodern contemporary art. For full explanation, I would recommend the book The Contingent Object of Contemporary Art by Martha, but the simple version is that in a postmodern context, art is no longer just an object. The art is now an object in the whole context that it exists in. Who made it? How? Why? When? Where? Luckily, most artists will now include artist's statement explaining that part, so if you want to sound smart, you just read that and reword it. Not understanding it's just money laundering. Also tax evasion. Could you give a specific example of what you mean by modern art? That can encompass a lot of different things. Canvases that literally have a dot on them, monsieur. But it can also be extended to other things, like music that sounds like shit but it's art. Don't try to read it like it's a book, try to feel it like it's music. A young docent at a museum displaying a large collection of modern art quipped, "Sometimes you have to wonder if the artist is sublimely inspired or if he's just trying to put one over on us." Quote, "I have absolutely wondered this about some pieces I have seen!" Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Can't it be both? It's the idea of something, a thought visualized, a reflection materialized. It's not meant to be literal. What you see is what you get. An artist comes up with the idea as to why they approach a particular topic. It can be a political topic, a reflection on something like the passage of time, war. It can be autobiographical. With your usual paintings and sculptures, it's the beauty and sometimes symbolism that's the entire idea. With conceptual, abstract, etc. art, it's more of an, hey, I have this interesting way of perceiving this particular topic and I think others might find it nice. Let's give it an example that I just made up. An artist X had a cat as a child. It died, and ever since they were fascinated by death and cats. Those thoughts influenced their way of approaching other topics. They fell ill during their teenage years and ended up adopting a cat again to not feel so bad. The cat died, once again, strengthening the fascination, and around the same time the artist stopped being sick. They start to think that the cat sacrificed itself. It gave its all 9 lives away. So this artist makes an installation. They think to themselves, well, in what way can I show that a cat gave its life to save me? And they decide on using something that's a storage container. Why? Because when you empty it, you can refill it with something else that's essential. You can give it a new life. So the artist ends up using a cookie box that turns into a box full of Polaroids with their holiday memories. It symbolizes the way that once the box gave its life away. Like the cat, it let the artist live a life and cherish the memories. It's pretentious, but it's like poetry. It's made to make you stop and reflect for a bit. With abstract art, it's usually an emotional way of approaching it. Harsh dark lines have a different tone than blended pastel ones. Digital printed art will be different than thick brush strokes on a canvas. When you look at abstract, you should feel the painting, and it's just like watching a pretty landscape. You know a pretty one when you see it. You know a dynamic dark one when you see it. A thunderstorm can be just as pretty as a summer meadow. That's my take on it. It took me 20 years to understand it, but watching the process of creating such pieces and being tasked to do so myself, I can say it's not as simple as it seems. There's a lot of context to know. Art galleries tend to lack in the backstories needed to interpret the pieces properly. That's why seeing an exhibition alone is not as fun as going there on a guided tour where you can ask questions and get to know the interpretation of the pieces as the artist intended. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.